Please welcome to the stage the very lovely Patrick McDaniels.
That's ridiculous, I love it. Oh my gosh. Hey everyone, what's up? Make sure this is set for me. Oh my gosh, it's so good to see you all packed in here. Everybody packed in. Before we continue on with this evening of fun and laughter and frivolity and devil worship, maybe. I don't know. We'll see how the night pans out. I'm not. Is he behind me? Too thirsty, Lucifer. Calm down. Calm down. Before we start that, though, I'm going to do a little bit of sincerity, and then I'll get back to the fucking chuckle fest. I hope that you all will join me. I want to thank a couple of people real quick up top. I want to thank, obviously, Dustin Fox. Give it up for Dustin Fox, gang. Oh, my God. Host extraordinaire. And then, Rob Constantine, am I right? Rob Constantine. Oh, Rob Constantine. Those two guys, in all sincerity, here's the thing about those two guys. One of the highlights of my life over the last 2 years or so has been that I have the opportunity to share a universe with those two guys. They are two of the greatest guys. You don't see it on stage when Rob's like... when Rob's like, ugh, And Dustin's like, let me warm up the crowd. I killed my dog. You don't see it. Well, they're doing any of that. Great warm-up, by the way, Dustin. You don't see any of that, but in all honesty, they're two of the kindest, nicest guys you'll ever meet. And then, it's not fair, they're also both very fucking funny. So please give another round of applause to both Dustin and Rob. Man, I'm nervous tonight. I'm not gonna lie. Hopefully we'll get through it together as a group, as a community tonight, but I am nervous. And I'll tell you why I'm so nervous tonight. I'm more nervous than any other show I've ever done, and here's why. I think there's a lot of parallels that you can draw between live music and live comedy. I think the two have a lot of similarities to them. But one place where the two are diametrically opposed is that when you're paying for live music, you're looking for something familiar. You're something that you're used to from that person. When you're paying for live comedy, it can't be familiar. It has to be new. It has to be novel. I need to surprise you. Otherwise, it's just not... I'll put it this way. Never in the history of live music has anybody been sitting in a crowd and yelled up, "We get it, Jimmy. You like margaritas. What else you got?" That's never... It's never happened. They like what they like. I'll put it another way. Let me just... excuse me. I'm going to come on down. Yeah, you. Hey, sir. Doing some fucking crowd work on your asses right now. What's your name? Where are you from?
My name is David, and I'm from Las Vegas.
From Las Vegas. Great. One question for you. That's all. One question. Which one of my jokes are you most looking forward to hearing tonight? That's the only right answer. Weird pause of silence is the only acceptable answer. You shouldn't know what I'm about to say. But try that shit at a Neil Diamond concert. Just try that. If Neil Diamond comes to the crowd and he goes, "Hey, any song you're looking forward to hearing?" You bet your forever in blue jeans asses that band behind him is already tuning the instruments to C sharp, which is the key of Sweet Caroline. And I know that because I'm not phoning it in up here, gang. I did my homework. You deserve that. The very least I can do is Google the key of Sweet Caroline. You've earned it. You deserve it. That's for you. Anyway, so to bring it back to why that makes me so anxious up here tonight, Rob and Dustin both mentioned it. About 10 months ago, I did a show called Younger, Older, Hold for Applause. Some of you were there. Fished for that, I don't care. And that show was like the culmination of a decade's worth of like material that I wrote but just never said out loud, right? I had 10 years worth of material, but here's the problem. 10 months ago, I threw all my heat. Like, that was it. Those were my best jokes. Everything else that I had written, did not care for. So I wrote a whole new show in 4 months, which is dumb. It's stupid. Do not recommend doing that. So I don't know how this is going to play out. Tonight could be incredible and amazing and fun for everybody, or a disaster. And I have no way of knowing, and you don't either. Here's how I look at tonight, and I think you should too. Tonight is kind of like a very special episode of the Magic School Bus. Like, we're all cruising around in some dude's lower intestines, just marveling at the digestive system in action. And all of a sudden, Miss Frizzle looks back at the bus and says, "I don't mean to alarm anyone, but the low fuel light just came on. And if we run out of gas, this thing expands and we blow this guy's bowels out." That's tonight. For me. It could be incredible. I could blow all your bowels out. I have no way of knowing. But I'll be honest, there's no better group than I would ever hope to find to jump on this crazy, stupid journey with than all of you who packed a theater in Seattle on a Saturday night. So what do you say, gang? You want to do this? Let's climb into the school bus, everybody, and see how this pans out. I'm in a thing right now I'm super stoked about. Some of you might be in one of these too. I'm in a thing called a couple. I'm in a couple. Round of applause. Who here's in a couple? In a couple. Yeah. Yeah. Round of applause. Who here's in a couple with me? All right. Let's do a quick check. Feel like we all just learned something just then. No, that math works out. I just want to make sure. I want to make sure I wasn't missing any anniversary gifts or anything. So I think we're okay. I think we're good with that. I love being in a couple. Being in a couple is my favorite thing I've ever been in. And that's a double entendre. So you can mark that on your Strange Lazy Bingo card. That's right there. They're under your chairs. It's a callback to Younger, Older. There's stuff under your chairs in Younger, Older, too. There wasn't. I love being in a couple. My favorite part about being in a couple is something that a lot of people find extremely obnoxious, but I don't. I love coordinating with my wife. Like when we're going out. Like I love coordinating with my wife when we're going out. So, like we don't go too matchy-matchy. We don't look like we're opening up a detective agency in like a 90s Nickelodeon show. We're not too on the nose, you know? But if we're meeting some friends out for drinks, we'll have that conversation like, what do you think, honey? J. Crew Spring Collection or Bruce Springsteen Born to Run? Like we kind of like to be in the same universe, sort of. Another example of couples doing things together is that this last year, both of my parents got cancer, which is objectively adorable. It's adorable. No, and just like my wife and I, they didn't go too matchy-matchy. Like, they both got different... just different kinds. Listen, this isn't the show where I'm gonna string you along till you find out what happened. Like, they're here with us tonight, you know? And, yeah. And I realized that I made a gesture that made that feel more ominous. Like, it's not like they're here with us in the way that they're like always here with us. They're here with us tonight. To be super clear. No, we're super lucky. We're super fortunate. Like, both of my parents got diagnosed early. The treatment worked really well, and they're healthy, and it's wonderful, and we're all super, super lucky. In fact, they caught it so early, my parents are still annoyed when people ask them to donate to cancer research. Like, that's very early. They don't relate. They'll be like walking out of the mall and somebody will be like, something, something, March of Dimes, and they're like, no. No, thank you. And a funny thing happened over the last year while I was processing, and as we were working together and kind of arm in arm with my parents as they were going through their treatment, which was, you think kind of two things. So first you think, God, I hope that they're going to be okay, right? You can't help but think that. Like, I hope they're going to be okay. I hope they're going to be healthy. But then you also become very fucking selfish. And I remember even one time specifically where this showed up. My mom was going through treatment, and I went up to her and I asked her, Mom, who's going to take care of me if I get a cold and you're gone? I think we should sort this stuff out. She's like, I don't know your wife? Maybe you wrote like a whole show about her a year ago. You remember her? She's something, right? And listen, I get that, right? I get that we did this through sickness and in health. I was there. I said it too. But I'm also equipped with additional information. For example, I know how much money's in our bank account, and I've seen my wife's vision board. And the difference between the two, that's just about what my employee-issued life insurance policy would net her. So I think I could be forgiven for not putting all my eggs into that basket. She has a very real conflict of interest on display in our office, made out of poster board, magazine clippings, and ransom note letters. And you know what's not on her vision board? A picture of me older, fucking nowhere to be found. It's not there. I've looked. Scour. I mean, it's. I'll just show you. Here's my wife's vision board. Just two things. That's a reasonable vision board. A 2012 Jeep Grand Cherokee, which she'll be quick to tell you can't see in the picture, heated seats. And a 10-day vacation to the Finger Lakes region of New York State for some reason, and she's good. That's a reasonable vision board. You don't need Jennifer Lopez's butts insurance policy to reach my... Like, you need Jennifer Lopez's buttholes insurance policy. Like, it's still a thing. You still need to protect it, but it's not bringing the boys to the yard. You know what I'm saying? It's not what's bringing them... When you see my wife's vision board, by the way, don't you kind of start to understand a little bit more why a woman like that married a guy like me? Like those are pretty low. Like your last vision board was, I'm just looking for a dude who's thin, but at the exact same time chubby? And who grows a beard like he just spent the last 2 hours meticulously scotch taping random pubic hairs to the bottom of his chin. Vision accomplished. What you put out in the universe, you get. And you all laughed way too hard about my facial hair. If I'm being real with you all right now. Dial it back. So one time I'll ask you to dial it back. Oh man, no. I hate colds. I hate getting the cold. That's why I mentioned it to my mom. I want to make sure that we set that record straight. I hate cold. But here's the good thing. I don't get the cold often. And the reason why I think I don't get the cold often is because I don't spend a lot of time in places where you might get it. Like, for example, the cold. I don't like the cold. I don't like the cold. I don't spend time in it. Now my wife will be quick to tell me, Patrick, you don't get a cold from the cold, which now that we've seen your vision board sounds insidious. Like, go do a polar bear plunge on Hoth. Go ahead, it's fine. But also big if true. Because if you don't get a cold from the cold, then the weather, the cold, has a real PR problem on its hands that it's got to deal with. It's like, man, I don't get why people won't mess with me. I gave you sweaters, which are cozy as fuck. Hot buttered rum. The only thing that separates Game of Thrones from Netflix's The Crown. Like, the only thing. You guys still don't mess with me. It's true, that's the only thing that separates Game of Thrones from The Crown. If you take away the cold, exactly same show. It's just rich aristocrats in temperate climates sleeping with their relatives. Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert on the British monarchy. I'm sorry, I didn't. I hate the cold. The cold is the worst illness of all time. And listen, I get that I'm saying that right after saying my parents had cancer. That's not lost on me. The optics are terrible. I get it. But when you have cancer, you have cancer. And we as a society have decided that if you get a cold, you still have to do things. Like, we don't have a socioeconomic or healthcare system in place to support the cold. You still have to get in your car and drive to work running an underground log flume ride out of your nose. And turning the Tom Waits filter on your voice up to 11. You still have to go to work, go to Arby's, and make the roast beef. What I'm saying is, assume that anybody at Arby's that is making your sandwich has a very presenting cold. Maybe that will change how often you go to Arby's. Show's brought to you by Arby's. We've got the meats. No, I hate the cold. Luckily, I don't get sick often. I used to play sick a lot. I used to be one of those kids that played sick a bunch. Like, I played sick so much that people thought that I was like the second coming of Teddy Roosevelt. History reference! Like, two people are like, yes, historically, Teddy Roosevelt spent much of his childhood in a sick bed. The rest of you are like, did he Teddy Roosevelt? No. You gotta save your blues for something a little more universal. I did. I used to play sick a lot, and I've recently learned two major things about playing sick. Two things that I did not know. First, did you guys know grown-ups do it too? They do. A game changer for my work ethic. Don't tell my boss. Game changer for my work ethic. You would think as human beings, we could call another human being and say, not feeling it, I don't want to go into work today, so I'm not going to. From one adult to another. You get that, right? You can't. We're still calling him up like, I don't know what's wrong. Just gonna rest. So that's the first thing I learned. The second thing I recently learned about playing sick was that I went way too hard in the paint when it came to playing sick. I tried entirely too hard. Like most kids, if you were going to play sick, you would just tell your parents, I'm feeling well, I'm going to stay home, right? But not me. Like, I'd circle the day on the calendar, like right next to, beers with Squee or whatever. That's still relevant? I don't know if it's relevant. For one person? Cool. We've all normalized to it. One person still. Fuck that judge. More people should have that outrage via clapping than one person, I feel. We got up to 4. I'm moving on. I'm not going to fish for that any longer. But yeah, most of you would just be like, oh, it's like, it was an entire production for me. When I decided that I was going to play sick, I turned into like Daniel Day-Lewis. It was super methody. Like, it would start like a week out. You always start right after eating a meal. That's when you start. You sow the seeds of playing sick. I'd be like, oh, that food did not settle well. Was it the food? We'll find out. Then throughout the rest of the week, I would just continue to go to bed early, turn down soda pop for water. Here's a move that's really versatile. Every once in a while when you're sitting next to your parents, just go like this. You guys probably did it. Here's why that move's so clutch. Yes, you're fishing for them to ask you, oh, is something wrong, right? And then you can say, tell me. But even if they don't, they kind of got the message. Nobody does that when they're happy and feeling well. And this would all lead up to the night before day 0. When I'd go up to my parents, and I would say, that was all over the place. And I would say, listen, I think I'm going to hit the sack. I don't know. I don't know what's going on. It's not right. I know it's dinner time, but I think I'm just going to call it. I'm being honest. If I feel like this tomorrow morning, I think, you know what? No. I shudder to even say it. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. Day 0, my parents wake up, and I'm sitting on the side of their bed. Mom, Dad, I have to ask a favor of you. As you know, via all of my this week, I just haven't been feeling well. And listen, I tried everything. I tried water. This morning I got up and I jogged 3 miles just to try to... I experimented with acupuncture when Western medicine failed me, and I don't know. I don't know what else to do, so here's the favor I need from you. I need you to make me stay home today. Because if you don't, I swear I am going to wrap that backpack over my cold, clammy shoulders. And I'm going to drag myself out there to school. And you know why? Because all I want is what you want. Which is for me to get an education. To make something of myself. To rise out of this ghetto. We didn't live in the ghetto, but I was super feeling myself. I was in it. Rise out of this ghetto and become the one thing I know all of us on this bed want me to be. The best version of me. And they responded with, and then I spent the entire day that I was playing sick, laying in bed, drinking water, eating chicken noodle soup, taking Flintstones vitamins, generally resting to heal from an illness that, again, I must stress, I didn't have. And even then, it wasn't over yet. There was like a week of rehab. A week of like transitioning from clear fluids, learning to walk again. Here's a visual representation. Of what I'm talking about. 2 weeks. 2 weeks to get out of an arbitrary 8 hours of school. Like, that's lazy, but like in a weird, strange way. It's a strange lazy right there, man. Oh, that's the name of the show. Now it showed up. Oh, man. That's sort of a theme in my life. I am a very strange lazy. If there's something that I won't want to do, I will do a ton more work just to avoid it. This has happened my entire life. When I was younger, about 7 years old, I lived in we had a very stereotypical middle-class suburban white upbringing in the 80s and 90s. Like, we lived a 2-story house on a cul-de-sac with a fence and the dog and the 2.5 kids. I'm the 0.5. I mean, you all in this room know it, but we're going to add the legs in post, so you all won't. I'm wearing green tights with tennis balls taped to them. My right leg is being played by Andy Serkis. My left leg by Bradley Cooper. What a get. How did Patrick afford that? No, I had a very stereotypical upbringing, in as much as even, like, my parents signed us up for sports. They signed us up to participate in sports, which is like a super standard thing, right? My parents signed me up for that same sport that, like, every parent signed their young boys up to. You guys know the one, right? Figure skating. Oh, just me? Just me? It's true. My parents signed me up for figure skating lessons around the same time my mom introduced me to musicals. So what I'm saying is I'm living proof that you're either born gay or you're not, because my mom threw everything except like a sack of floppy dicks at my face, and I'm still all about them fat bottom girls, just like me and my mom's favorite singer, Freddie Mercury. What? Oh. Really? Oh, got it. Just got some information from the booth about Freddie Mercury. Happy Seattle Pride. Happy Seattle Pride. I obviously didn't want to figure skate. That was like not something I was interested in doing. The main reason I didn't want to figure skate was because about 6 months earlier, I had come into possession of a new Nintendo Entertainment System. And I was currently locked in a pretty heated feud with an 8-bit bird dog that didn't know its place and kept laughing at me, a 7-year-old kid from the suburbs, for not being a crack shot with a duck hunting rifle. Come on, bird dog, you work for me. You forget your place. So no, I did not want to figure skate. If my parents had asked me what sport I wanted to participate in, I would have told them without hesitation, baseball. And not because I'm particularly enamored with baseball. I'm not. But because baseball seems to be about the least that you could physically do while still telling people that you're participating in a sport. I'm all about that. And you know it from like the baseball cards. Like if you look at hockey cards, football cards, basketball cards, soccer cards, whatever, all the people on the card are doing what I like to call active verbs. Running, shooting, blocking, tackling, kicking, scoring, whatever. Every baseball card's the same thing. It's just a dude staring down the barrel of the camera with a bat jauntily slung over his shoulder. Which this is not a baseball move. You don't do that in baseball unless you're taking the equipment back to the Astrovan to make sure you hit up Dairy Queen on the way home. And so far, all signs point to great. I could do that. I can wait around in a uniform. That sounds great. Sign me up for baseball. I like to. Thanks, Rob. I like to I like to dig on baseball a little bit because, let's be honest, baseball's not a sport. It's not. Thank you. A mixed room. Okay, listen. Here's how I know baseball's not a sport. Because it's famously called America's sport. Just kidding. It's called America's game. Still wrong. America's pastime. That's the one. Pastime. Way to pass the time. That's not a sport. It's a hobby. Let's be really clear. When they're saying that, they're not saying watching baseball is America's pastime. They're talking about the people doing the baseball. Like, I don't know, I just finished refurnishing the cabinets in my kitchen, and I watched a few YouTube videos, changed the oil in the Buick all by myself. Still got 9 hours of daylight. Maybe I'll shortstop for the Kansas City Royals. I don't know. I don't know what else there's to do. And yet, every Sunday, my parents would walk me into the Sprinker ice skating rink in Parkland or Spanaway, whatever. They're the same. Parkaway. Spanland. Thank you. And they walk me into the Sprinker ice skating rink past a picture that I'd like to describe to you in great detail right now. It's a picture of a young child, and he was standing on center ice. He had one skate like this, one skate jauntily like that. He was looking at the camera with the biggest smile on his face. He was wearing one of those winter caps with the little on the top, little dirty blonde hair poking out from either side. He had like a dark brown jacket and then lighter brown pants and skates. This was all wrapped in one of those grandiose 80s wooden frames with a small little gold inlay around it. And underneath it was a plaque. And the plaque read, Matthew McDaniels, it's my brother. Skater of the Month, April 1987. And the reason why today even I can tell you about that picture in great detail is because even today, he won't shut the fuck up about it. We get it. We get it. We get it. You could ice skate 1 month. Lord. Anyway, not only did I take figure skating lessons, they were private figure skating lessons. And these private figure skating lessons were conducted by, and this is real, an Olympic figure skating coach. Her name was Jill or something. And I didn't want to figure skate, and I'm a strange lazy. This was a catalyst for trouble. It was her, an elite coach who could train anybody, versus me, who wants to avoid everything. And so here's how it worked out. Every single week, it was the same thing. Jill would drag me into center ice. And she would dump me unceremoniously in the ring, and she'd skate backwards like, what you got for me? And you know what I had for her? Nothing. I did nothing. Could I skate? Yeah, I could skate. I didn't want to. If I got tired, I'd lay down. If I got thirsty, I'd lick. This was a war of attrition between the best and the best. I was sitting on that ice basically watching my parents burn money for 2 months straight. So they were factor two. Who was going to give first? My brother screaming from the side of the rink like, get up, do something, because he was afraid I was going to dampen his legacy as skater of the fucking month. I did nothing until the point when Jill went up to my parents and she gave up on me. I won. Yeah. I want. Lazy prevailed. As an interesting postscript to that story, the next Winter Olympics were in 1988, and they were held in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. Figure skating took place at the Stampede Center. The United States showed up pretty well. Not bad. There's their gold medal count right there. Good enough for second place. First place went to the USSR. Now, I'm not saying that my inability to be coached created a situation where Jill was wasting time with me. Wasn't able to give her full effort to the Olympic figure skating team, and they fell short of expectations, and the USSR rose above them and won, and we arbitrarily extended the Cold War longer than it had to be. I'm not saying that. Wikipedia is. It's right there. It's right there. So my parents are going to have to find some other way to be proud of me, because not only am I not a good figure skater, it turns out I'm probably a traitor too. I don't know. I don't know how that works out. I don't know what the definition is. Luckily, parents have an uncanny ability to be proud of their kids. They find a way to be proud of their kids no matter what. And my parents are no different. I believe that they're proud of me. In fact, a few years back, my mom called me up and excitedly told me that she had found me featured in a book, which by itself is not odd or strange. That's cool. If your kid's featured in a book, that's an exciting thing, and you should be proud of them. Here's where it gets weird. The genre of book is true crime. And the name of the book is Don't Look Behind You by Anne Rule. And it's true. And listen, before you all rush to judgment, let me read a portion of the book that I'm featured in. Okay, I'm going to read it. Could the jury give this bemused version of Renee's first interview more weight than her just-ended testimony about cutting up her former lover's body? That's me. I'm the jury. And no. It's true, I was called to be on a jury in my mid-20s for a cold case murder trial from the 1970s. And before we get to it, because we will, let's just get the elephant out of the room. No, I should not be serving on a jury. I get that. I shouldn't be serving on a jury. Like, let's say you're a defendant and you're sitting at the defense table and you look up at the jury box and you see this. You ultimately, right away, that defendant's like, why me? No. What's that guy doing? I am going to give you all details on the murder trial, because I think all good comedy shows for charity should have details on a grisly murder. Think about it. Think about all of the comedy shows for charity that you've ever been to. How many of them included grisly murder details? Probably none. How many of them fell flat? Probably all of them. I rest my case, and I can say that because I'm a juror. That's right. They swear you in. They never swear you out. I am still on that jury today. I'll judge all of you. I'll give you some details. Here's the obligatory, this is all real. You can look it up, whatever. So here's what happened. In the 1970s, there was a woman who worked part-time as a department store catalog lingerie model. For those of you that don't know what that is, think of it as the 1970s equivalent of Brazzers. Now, about 4 of you laughed. If you came here with somebody who laughed and you didn't laugh, have that talk. Patrick McDaniels breaking up relationships via Brazzers references. Anyway, so she was a lingerie model for department store catalogs, and she was carrying on an affair with a traveling salesman. And one day, she decided she didn't want to date him anymore, and so she called him over to her house to check on a washing machine in the basement. When he went down to the basement to check behind the washing machine, her brother showed up and shot him execution style from the back of the head. They both chopped him up, threw him into the backyard of the house they rented in Puyallup. And the bag stayed there, and he stayed there, and the case remained unsolved for over 20 years until the bags were uncovered and the perpetrators were brought to justice, thanks to a team of police officers and detectives and forensic scientists and judges and me. You're welcome. Makes up a little bit for the Russia thing, I think. It was a pretty cut and dry case. Like within 30 seconds, the jury box, we all kind of looked at each other like, got him. Like we'd solved the mystery. It was a pretty cut and dry case. That's not the crazy thing about it. The crazy thing about that case happens later when the book is published. Because if you remember, the name of the book is Don't Look Behind You, which is terrible advice to give to the victim of that crime. But just the sort of advice you'd expect from an author whose job depends on true crime occurring. Book 1 of a trilogy. The second book was Get in That Van, and the third was... Third was Street Clowns Are Hella Approachable, or something. I want to pause for a second, and I want to give you a little bit of insight into my creative process. And I don't know if Rob and Dustin are the same way, but for me, like you as you write and you perform, you begin to develop your voice. And there are certain jokes that you write that you're like, that's in my voice, or I can make that in my voice. And then there are certain jokes that you write and you're like, no, this is not gonna work. I wrote a line for this last section, and it is not in my voice. But I thought for fun, if you want to hear it, just to see what I'm talking about, thought maybe I'd. All right. I'll do it. I'm gonna tell you this line, and I want to preface it by saying I'm not proud of it. I'm not proud of this line. but here, this is a terror. Okay, I'm gonna say it. This woman was dating this guy, and then she decided she didn't want to date him anymore, and so she ghosted him. I'm sorry. She made him a ghost. I'm better than that. I know. How you guys doing so far? Good? Cool. Me too. This is fun. I can't wait for old racists to die for 3 primary reasons. I'd like to share them with you now. What a weird segue. That was abrupt. Reason number 1, the racism. Yeah, that's of course the racism. Let's get that out of the way. Reason number 2, the word racist kicks up my lisp a little bit. I don't know if you heard it. If you didn't, I'm sorry. It's all you'll hear now. I have a little bit of a lisp. And if you have a lisp, you know there's certain words that you either avoid or when you say them, they kind of just sort of kick it up a little bit. You get self-conscious. And one of those words for me, turns out, is racist. I didn't know that for years because the word racist wasn't part of my daily vocabulary. But here we are, in the darkest timeline. I can't wait till we can just go back to how it used to be and call him Republican again. I can't wait. Stop. Don't applaud that. No, stop applauding that. All right, applaud it. It's fine. God. I generally know the type of people that would come to a Patrick McDaniels show. That joke's pretty safe, but even I know I lost like 2 of you. What? Anyway, the third reason why I can't wait for old races to die, and probably the most important, is if I get stuck in a grocery store behind one more person paying with checks, I'm going to lose my mind. Lose it. I'm going to lose it. You know who doesn't pay for their groceries with checks? Young racists. They're smart enough. Like, I'll buy these tiki torches on my locally owned and operated credit union debit card. Thank you very much, I can't stand when people pay for groceries with checks. It's one of those things that, like, you know those things that make you infuriatingly mad, like illogically mad, where even like, you're out of sorts, you're too far gone, you know the things? Like, here's another example, roundabouts. Listen. The directions are in the name. They're called roundabouts because go round about them. I do. I get absolutely livid when somebody in front of me in the grocery store pulls out that little ledger of doom and they ask that question that every check writer writes every single time they write a check from their first time to their billionth. Who do I make this out to? Fucker, where are you? What's the name of the place? Put that on the check. This isn't a unique business model where you write a personal check to Gary, the 19-year-old kid behind the counter. Gary doesn't want your check. Gary wouldn't know what to do with your check. He'd be like, what is this, papyrus? Like, he has no interest in your check. No. In fact, everybody in this room tonight, do an experiment when you get home. When you get home, look at your bank account and write a check out to the penny for the full amount that's in your bank account. Make it out to anybody under the age of 25. I promise you your money's safe. It's not going anywhere, man. I don't know why people pay for things with checks. Like, oh, yes, you want to participate in the free market, but you also kind of want to cosplay as a Dickensian bookkeeper. I don't get it. Like, yes, I'd be happy to trade you goods and services for an overly elaborate worksheet. How does that sound? Just one question. How do you spell with letters the number 80? Fuck you. That's how you do. That's exactly how you spell it. F-U. C-K. Space Y-O-U. What a weird segue. Like, we've got a story that we're doing, and then I decided to get really angry about people writing checks. That's weird. I'm going to get us back on track. While I'm in this weird pause, I just want to say again, thank you for coming out tonight. Thank you for all the proceeds from your tickets are going to the University District Food Bank, and we couldn't be happier about that. If you feel compelled to give more and you want to give more, you can donate right outside the theater. You can donate at the after party in the lounge afterwards. We're taking... That's my punchline. That was the big finish. Growing up, we didn't travel a bunch. Me and my parents, we didn't take a whole lot of vacations. We took trips, and there's a difference. Like, a vacation is going out and, like, experiencing the world and doing something different and staying for extended periods of time, seeing places you've never seen before. Trips are just not sleeping in your bed for the weekend. Like, it's a different sort of thing. Our big trip, we would take one trip annually. We would take this one big trip every year where my parents would load us into the minivan and they'd drive us all the way across the state to Spokane, Washington. You might want to wait. Spokane, Washington, a place that David Duke famously described as getting there. Yeah, pretty Getting there. We did take 2 big vacations growing up. The first one was to Disneyland. I don't remember that. I was way too young. I don't remember a trip to Disneyland. So I actually recently asked my dad what it was like taking 3 kids to Disneyland just to kind of get that, the sense of it. And he told me, he said, well, it was pretty futile and frustrating at times. It's understandable. I mean, he can't be blamed for saying that. Mainly because he didn't say it. That wasn't my dad's words, so you can't blame him. Those words were from the excellent Ken Burns documentary, The Vietnam War. But you didn't know that. I think that's the point. The second big vacation that we took really boggles my mind. My parents loaded us into the minivan when I was in high school, about 16 years old, and they drove us on a road trip to Las Vegas, Nevada. Fun fact, people love it, who are from Nevada, for you to call it Las Vegas, Nevada, so I'll be doing it often. I didn't understand why my parents took us to Las Vegas. It was during that couple weeks where Las Vegas marketed themselves as the family-friendly vacation destination. They didn't change anything. They just said, yeah, bring your kids. They didn't come too. I didn't get it because the Venn diagram of the things that people do in Vegas and the things my parents like to do is 2 hoop earrings, just completely. They do not intersect. My parents don't drink, they don't smoke, they don't gamble, they don't do any of that. We just ended up spending a week walking around the strip getting donkey punched by 120-degree bursts of air. Well, my dad's look at the building, and my mom's actively trying to get us to avoid this guy. You know what I'm talking about? For those of you who don't know what that is, it's a career choice in Las Vegas, Nevada, in which you walk along the strip with a handful of printed collateral. And as you're walking past somebody, you smack it in your hand, and they go, ooh! And when they go, ooh, you stuff some of it into their hand, and it is advertisements for boobies. That's the whole thing. Imagine being me at 16 years old. This was Xanadu. Because I was knee-deep in puberty. Ladies, I'd like to fill you in on a phenomenon that happens with men. I'm starting at the age 13 and going to Let's Call It Ever. You know how when you're met with new information, you use your senses to process it? Sight, sound, ears, ghosts, that sixth sense, whatever. Well, when men are presented with new information, all of that funnels through their pee holes. Just right through. Right through the pee hole. And then it filters its way up, hitting a bunch of different walls as it works its way to our brain before we can finally make sense of it. We're like, should I sleep with it? Should I eat it? Should I grow a weird emotional attachment to it because I've been watching too much Dawson's Creek and listening to too much Dashboard Confessional? Should I bully it with words? It's a dandelion. That's how we... So imagine being me at 16 years old, and porn is falling into my hands. This is a sign that God exists for me. Because I was a strange, lazy, I wasn't going to put any kind of effort into it. My friends, some of them had Playboy, some of them bought those VHS tapes from behind the gas stations. Me, I would just get on my knees every night and be like, God, I'm a good person. Just rain porn down into my open palms. Open palm. Just rain it. Rain it down. My mom's like hitting my dad, family friendly, huh? My dad's like, that is someone's daughter. Or son. My dad's woke AF, you guys. My dad's woke. So we didn't take a lot of trips growing up, a whole lot of vacations growing up. But here's one of my favorite places. One of my favorite places is Canada. I love Canada. It took me too long to get there, too. I didn't get to Canada until I was like in my 30s, which is weird because it's right there, right? Like, I love Canada. Like, if you think about it, like, here's the United States, right? And then in comparison, Canada's like fucking Narnia. It's like, it's incredible. And I want to be just really clear on this. This doesn't mean like you get to third base with Aslan. This is like, fucking Narnia. Not like fucking Narnia. I love Canada. When I finally got up to Canada, I was just like enamored by it. It was incredible. The people there are honestly super nice. It has the most beautiful world leaders. Listen, I said earlier, not gay, but also not blind. That is a good-looking dude. Best-looking world leader by a country mile. Runner-up, Angela Merkel. But I think it's more like a power-based sexy to me, like a musky kind of thing. It's doing it for me, though. Oh, man. I tell you, I would love, a few years back, I'm not going to get into the details of what happened, but let's just say it better fucking not happen in 2020. A few years back, my wife and I actually looked into emigrating to Canada. We looked into becoming Canadian citizens. We did. We were those people. We looked into it. And even today, I would do it. Like, even today, hell yeah, I would do it. Today, like, listen, if right now in this theater, the door's open, and a Canadian emissary walked in, he's like, Patrick, grab your wife, we'll get your kid, and we'll get you across the border. You'll be sworn in by Dawn in Vancouver and enjoying Tim Hortons the next day. I'd be like, fuck the food bank. I'd be gone, you guys. I'd roll on this affair so hard. I'd roll on the whole thing. I'd turn Republican. I'd be like, oh, are you hungry? Bootstraps, bitches! And I'd be gone. Just. Anyway, no, we didn't travel much. Which was interesting. Like anything, it was not really something that my parents were into. Which was strange because when I was in my mid-20s, they were super supportive of me. Their youngest son, like selling everything I owned, including my car, and moving down to Los Angeles to try my hand at being a bona fide comedian. Spoiler alert. Didn't quite take. In fact, they're probably too eager, like. On the way home after dropping me off in LA, they were probably like, honey, listen, one of two things is going to happen. One, he makes it big, wets our whistle a little bit. Or two, he's gone. And this is a real 6 in one hand, half a dozen in the other type of scenario for us. So I started a life in LA, made some new friends, and a couple months in, one of my friends invited me to go down to San Diego with him to hang out with some of his old college buddies, and I was all in, but primarily because I was fascinated with this guy's friends, and all I knew about them were their names and his phone. He had one friend named Bigfoot Tony. He had a second friend named Littlefoot Tony. He had a third friend named Mediumfoot Tony. There's a lot of Anthonys with feet-based nicknames. Meanwhile, if I'm being honest, I don't know if my friends have feet. They might just be pogoing around on stumps covered in cut-open tennis balls like an old person's walker. I don't know. I have no idea. Feet never came into the equation. And this dude's like, yo, kick off your loafers. What are we working with here? Oh, no. It's not like a sexual thing. It's a filing system in my phone. Big feet. So we got in the car, and we drove down to San Diego, and we met up with his friends in some, like, shitty, like, club, including one of his friends. I was so delighted, Medium Foot Tony, who I had questions for. Were you the last Tony? Were you formerly Bigfoot or Smallfoot Tony, and new foot information entered the equation? Like, I had a lot of questions, but unfortunately I didn't get to them because right when we got there, Medium Foot Tony gathered all of us dudes in a huddle in the middle of the dance floor, which I thought was nice. I thought I was going to be like, well, I'd like to welcome everybody to this meeting of the Friendship Club. This is awesome. I'm really happy that we are all gathered here together today. This is just wonderful. As always, I want to say hello to our old members, Earlobes Peter, Long Neck Frank, and our newest member, Low Self-Esteem Patrick. I know it's not technically a physical attribute, but you wear it. Like it's there. Anyway, guys, let's go out there. Let's make some mischief, but let's also make some memories. All in Friendship Club. That's not what happened. What actually happened was Medium Foot Tony pulled out a small Ziploc bag from his back pocket and proceeded to distribute 2 strange, random, unmarked pills into the palms of everybody in the circle. Now, I want to pause and talk to you about drugs. Some of you are for drugs. Some of you are against drugs. I don't know why I'm doing like a wedding. It's weird. Are you with the bride or the drugs? It's this side. But I think one thing we can all agree on is that random strange drugs from a stranger are bad. Like you shouldn't do it. I could go downtown and see somebody doing like that heroin slump and be like, hey, you want a couple randos? And he'd be like, seems irresponsible. Like, nobody's for random drugs from a stranger. And the thing to do when presented with random drugs from a stranger is not them. And we all in this room are more or less in alignment to that fact. Which is what makes the next part of the story so weird. Because as the 2 pills careened down my throat, I thought 3 thoughts in rapid succession. First thought, oh no. But not just like, oh no. It was a kind of protracted oh no that you say to yourself when you've been going 20 miles an hour over the speed limit on like a country highway and you just pass like a highway patrolman. You know what I'm talking about? Like, oh no. It's too late, you know. The second thought was, I can trust a fella named Medium Foot Tony, right? That guy's fine. The third thought I thought was, my mom's going to be so disappointed in me. And not because I was ever going to tell her this happened. There was never a fear that I was going to tell my mom that had happened. But I think moms are kind of like late season's version of Bran Stark on Game of Thrones. Like, sitting in her living room in a wicker chair. Eyes rolled back, full three-eyed raven. Comes to, smacks my dad on the arm. Daniel, your son's being self-destructive again. And my dad's like, hold the door. Like, that's kind of how I... That's how I thought it was gonna play out, you know. So those were the first 3 thoughts I thought, rapid succession. They were also the last 3 thoughts I thought because I blacked out. I blacked out. And that's really scary in hindsight. Like, that's really scary. Like, I could have died. I could have, some of you are like, I take drugs for breakfast. But, like, I don't know, man. I don't. I'd never done anything like this before. It could have been it. And the most depressing part about that whole thing is if I had died, then the last thing I would have ever heard was 2 fellas named the Yin Yang Twins yelling aggressively about windows and walls. What a way to go. But at least I would have gotten some answers to some open sort of spiritual action items I've got spinning around my head, like St. Peter's waiting for you, or nothingness. Like, that would have been nice to know. Because I have a lot of questions. Here's the only thing that I know for sure. I know that Satanism gets a bad rap. That's the one thing I know for sure. They do. Satanism is the one religion that if you kind of deviate from the path, it's good. Like, it's better. Think about it. What are you doing donating to the University District Food Bank? What kind of devil worshiper are you? It's a value add to society. But I do think, Satanism shoots itself in the foot a lot. Like, if they want more people, they should soften the edges a little bit. Just soften the edges. Bring more people in the fold. First thing I'd recommend, get rid of Hail Satan. Let's just get rid of Hail Satan. Too aggressive. Lumps you in with some unsavory types. Like, I'll tell you, as soon as Hitler was like, I don't know, maybe I kind of want him to hail me. That should have been, off limits for everybody else. Nobody else should be hailing or wearing tiny mustaches. It's kind of funny how Hitler wore a little tiny mustache. He's such a terrible person that now nobody wears tiny mustaches anymore. Like, if Saddam Hussein had been into Old Navy performance fleeces, my high school would look 100% different. For the better. Word to pimp. But yeah, soften the edges. No more Hail Satan. Here's my recommendation. Satan loves you. Satan loves you. It's softer, and it also subtly portrays a competitive advantage against your biggest competitor, Christianity, because Jesus loves you, and yes, I know. The Bible told me so. But when you think about all those crazy ways you want people to love you that you never tell anyone, that's Satan's camp right there. Satan's DTF. If you go to Jesus, you're like, he'd be like, listen, whoa, trombones haven't even been invented yet, and I know I'm not in. You're looking for Lucifer. Anyway, I'm going to stop talking about Satanism because I'm slowly talking myself into making some pretty abrupt spiritual decisions, which I'm sure wasn't the thesis statement at the beginning of the show. Is he behind me again? Man. Anyway, I didn't die in San Diego, obviously. I came to a little bit later, albeit at a completely different bar. But I was still high. I was still like a weird, indescribable high that I've never experienced before since. And it's strange because I actually began to experience the stages of grief as I was trying to get through that and trying to process it with myself. And the best way to describe it is to put it in comparison with another time where I felt those stages of grief, which was in 2016. Okay, no, I'm fine. It's just a placebo effect. I'm not still high. I'm not high. It's all good. Everything's fine. I could drive if I had to. All right. I mean, we knew we were going to lose some states. No one runs the board. Nobody runs the... I get that we're going to lose. But you know what? It's early. It's early. I'm with her in as much as I'm not with him, so it's fine. Everything's going to be fine. Everything's fine. Fuck, why did I do it? It's not me. I don't take drugs. And what's wrong with me? God, I hate myself. Fuck all those people. What the fuck? How dare you? Are you listening? Are you seeing what he's doing? And yet you still vote? Get the fuck out of here. All right, God, listen. If you would just sober me up, I promise you, I will be better. I'll be a better person. I'll be a better citizen of the world. I'll never do something like this again. I promise. No can do, Patrick. I was still high. I was definitely... He was responding for sure. Okay, we get it. Okay, you won. You just want to say you won? You get it. You won. But you know what you don't have to do? You don't have to take it. You don't have to accept it. Just say that you won. And then go open your bullshit media empire that you wanted to do. Just do that. Go try hump your daughter again. I don't care. Just you won. You won. You won. But don't take it. All right, I guess that's it. I guess I am that kid who irresponsibly took drugs from a stranger in San Diego. That's now part of my definition as a person, and I guess I just have to accept that. I have to accept that happened and move on and just never make that mistake again. I guess it's just, it is what it is, and I'm okay with that. This is where the whole comparison falls flat. It's just where it... My parents taught me at an early age the importance and sort of the magic of stories. I remember being a kid and sitting rapt with attention as my parents would tell us the story of the mattress caper. And here's the story. There was a mattress that had to go from one building to another. That's it. That's the whole story. I'll give you the visual equivalent of that. Like, this is the mattress caper. That was the mattress caper. But not the way my parents told it. My parents told the mattress caper with plot twists and turns and humor and story arcs and cliffhangers and character development. It was so awe-inspiring that it's what first got me thinking that I wanted to tell stories. I wanted to live the kind of life that was full of stories that I could tell. But I didn't think I'd ever live that life, so I kind of started by making them up just to kind of... I'll give you my favorite example, which is something that nobody knows about until up to about 5 minutes from now. When I was in 6th grade, I joined a secret society of like-minded individuals who met each break period during homeroom and shared personal stories that we'd written that were incredibly lewd and obscene sexual escapades. I mean, I say they're lewd, but they were lewd in as much as it was like a Mad Lib at a bachelorette party. Like, we didn't know what we were talking about. All the information we had to go off of was like what we could suss out between the scrambles of like late night cable television. The stories were like, butt, draped, car wash. There were a lot of dodgy car washes in the 80s and the 90s on late night TV. A lot of dodgy car washes. These stories were incredibly obscene, or at least they would have been if they also weren't entirely inaccurate. We didn't know what we were talking about. Like, I don't even think we would have gotten in trouble if we'd gotten caught. Like, the teacher just would have been like, listen, I see what you're trying to do here. You're just not. Like, I lived in constant fear that my parents were going to find that little notebook hidden in my backpack. When I was a kid, I thought they would kill me. But in hindsight, they probably would have been thrilled. My dad would have been like, honey, get in here. I'm reading this story Patrick wrote. And I got to be honest with you. I don't think he's ever even high-fived somebody before. Like, this betrays a fundamental lack of understanding of, sex, but also the human anatomy. Like, has he never even looked down before? There's source material. Like a spigot. This is a good news story for us, honey. So I made up stories, but eventually I learned that we all live a life that is that's full of stories that should be shared and can be shared and ought to be shared. Over the past year, my family went through a really difficult time, and we leaned on stories. Stories were a solace. When you don't know what's going to happen and you don't know what's on the other side of the veil, you look for things that you can latch onto for immortality, for lack of a better way to put it. And stories are one of the 3 things that last forever. Like stories, Highlander, and Hostess Twinkies. Google it. There's an alchemy and a magic to stories, and that's kind of how I want to wrap up this evening. Like, stories are super powerful, and your stories ought to be told. And I stood up here tonight, and I told you some of my stories for who knows how long. I told you stories about, like, figure skating and drugs and sex, sort of, you know. And I had 2 ulterior motives tonight as I told you those stories. The first one was to challenge myself. To write an entire show using the overarching plot points of I, Tonya. How'd I do? How'd I do? You didn't even see it. You didn't even see it all along. Did you know, right when I came on stage, I fiddled with a shoelace, and I even threw in a Nancy Kerrigan, why me? I thought you guys were going to catch on. Nothing. The second ulterior motive that I had in coming up here tonight and telling you these stories was to inspire you to maybe tell at least one of yours to somebody. Because I do think stories are powerful, and stories help us all live forever. And your story deserves to be heard, and it needs to be heard, because that's how we all live forever. Thanks so much for coming out tonight. Satan loves you, and so do I. Good night.